Hey, Dima, welcome to the Secret Sesh. I am thrilled and honored to be here with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Bean. It's a pleasure. And, I've been listening to yours and Abdullah's show for the past few years, and it's just mind blowing that I get to sit here and be able to do this with you and Sesh and, continue to support the community and bring truth to cannabis because what you're doing and what you all are doing is amazing. And, it's just really undervalued and underappreciated in this world. And we need more people that are able to spread the love and the history that is cannabis. And I'm just honored to be on this little secret session with you. So thank you for having me.
All right. Well, thank you. Those are such kind words. And let's get a session, at least on my end. We're going to get a session at the top. These are, if you're just listening to a secret sesh for the first time, talking with people who find the kindness in their hearts to support this show on Patreon. It's more of like an informal get to know you sesh. I'm going to light one up.
I am a big heart head. So for me, hearts are the way to go.
Nice. All right. And this is really for me to get to know you. I had some fun checking out your YouTube channel all about travel and spreading, travel is a kind of consciousness and travel is mind expansive, just like cannabis. And like cannabis, I think travel is something that will bring more love and understanding into the world. So, where does cannabis come into your life? Where did traveling come into your life? When did you start down that road as a what they call a vlogger?
We're in London,
Glasgow,
Edinburgh,
Stirling, Chicago,
Traverse City,
Sleeping Bear Dunes,
Vancouver,
Whistler, Victoria, Starved Rock,
Madison,
Munich, Lviv, Kiev,
Boston, Hilton Head Island, and Charleston.
We're gonna have a little bit of a wacky accent when we come back.
Very good question. Well, to start off, I was born in Ukraine in Europe, so I always had that love for Europe and going back and visiting family and friends. And every few couple of years, I would always just go there and venture. Used to work in the restaurant industry, so was always able to take time off, a week, 2 weeks, no problem, a month, and just go travel. Stay in hostels and enjoy the world. Somewhere along the line through my travels, I was introduced to cannabis. I traveled to Colorado to visit a friend, and for me, I never smoked until I was way past college. I was a drinker. I mean, I still love to drink wine, beer, alcohol, anything, you name it, really. But I traveled to Colorado and I tried illegal gummy. I smoked a little bit. I felt, hey, it's legal. It's nothing wrong with it. What's going on? Lo and behold, the next day I was like, okay, this really just changed my life, my perceptions about what cannabis is. And I just basically threw everything out the window that I knew and started researching as much as I could find about cannabis. I came across to a lot of YouTube videos and podcasts and articles on Leafly, of which I'm sure you have written many. And I definitely remember seeing your name on there. So at some point when you guys started the podcast, it was just another stepping stone. And that was 2019 that we're talking. That was a little bit.
Can we call that a stepping stone? Just to stay on
Yes,
brand for myself. Okay, please.
I was just thinking about some puns earlier, and I haven't noticed my opportunity to pitch in. I love that, stepping stoned. But yeah, it's that's really how I got my start in cannabis, is just by way of traveling, and I just really continued that. As I lived in the Midwest, there was really not a lot of options for legality here, Michigan and Illinois. Really only ones right now, and this is really where I live. I live in those two areas. I have a huge love for Chicago and the cannabis that we have out here in the Midwest. And here I am sitting here smoking on it today, enjoying it with you.
All right. Well, it seems like we say, great moments in weed history happen to all of us, and sounds like that first time was certainly a great moment for your personal weed history. And I can think back to a personal epiphany. Really, the first time I got high wasn't the first time I tried it because it took a few times to take.
Oh yeah.
And I think that can be really profound. And it's important not to discount. Sometimes the stereotype is, oh, the next day it all just seems like gibberish. Sometimes. I've certainly gone to the old notebook and said, I don't even really get this. That's more of a psychedelics experience as well.
Mm.
Sometimes you write a few things down, but often it's important and lasting, and it seems like it was that way for you. I'm curious, it, did you ever encounter cannabis when you were growing up in Ukraine, and was it heavily prohibited at that time? Did you have thoughts and feelings around it um, before you, in essence, as you said, travel opened you up to it?
Well, I want to say that I was very young when I moved from Ukraine to the United States, so I really didn't have too much of the perception there. I grew up as a dare kid, so just the usual standard say no to drugs kind of a shtick. And by and large, I would say that's what a lot of people do, adhere to. But cannabis is a drug just like sugar and alcohol is, and really caffeine. So in my perception, it really doesn't apply to that whole say no to drugs. But really there's a lot of medicinal value to it. And that story was just untold for so many years. People forgot about it. But my people in Ukraine were cultivating cannabis for obviously rope, for paper. I think one of the first Kazakh constitutions was written on hemp paper, just like the first draft of the Declaration of Independence or what have you. So really, and when I did the research on it, of the top hemp, or you let's just say cannabis growing regions in the world, it was the states of the Midwest, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Wisconsin, and then Ukraine followed by that. So our people were growing cannabis for decades, for centuries, until, of course, the federal government started pushing the Single Narcotics Convention of 1962, and that's really where it kind of ended. I mean, Ukrainian farmers would cultivate cannabis for decades, and it was collectivized by the Soviet Union. They would use it for rope making. I mean, just look at what we can do with hemp today. Hempcrete, hemp plastics, and that really was the sign of the future until DuPont had their way.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the original cannabis conspiracy, and if you were gonna take that green pill with us on the show, I can recommend our episode about the late great Jack Herer, rhymes with terror,
Error,
and,
yeah.
yeah, and also a more recent episode with the author Doug Fine, who, in addition to being a hemp grower himself, has written several really interesting books on the subject. Bringing people back to your vlog and your adventures. I enjoyed a few of them. I didn't get to watch them all, but I don't know if you have ever interacted with cannabis culture on camera in your travels, or maybe if there's any off camera experiences that you think you'd like to share.
Yeah, well, I would just like to say that the first time I got high is on camera. I vlogged when I went to Colorado, and there's a point in time where I'm just like talking normally, saying that, hey, we're just getting in the car, we're driving to the mountains, and then like the funky music comes on, and I was just listening to Pink Floyd. I was feeling a good time. This was my first time at a high elevation, so I was in Colorado Springs area near Florissant, and that's like 8,200 feet, give or take. And so I was feeling the effects of altitude sickness, which I've never felt before, in addition to feeling a probably 10 milligram gummy kicking in and maybe a joint all at the same time. So I felt like I was just like melting into the seat, and I didn't know what was going on. I was pretty much hungover, pot hangover for the next, I would say, day and a half. Like I couldn't even move. Like this, it took me like, I felt like half an hour getting to the bathroom, crawling on my feet. That's how,
Yeah.
that's how stoned I was. But I felt, great. And I really enjoyed my time with my friends and just being in the mountains. And just the taste of it. I like beer. I like trying craft beer. I'm a craft beer snob, and I love trying new different kinds of weed. I vaporize everything, so really that's one of the reasons why I really got a good start on it. But as far as my other channels, I traveled to Barcelona in Spain, and I really enjoyed my time there. I think there's a vlog where I'm just walking around and somebody's like, "Hey, you need weed," rather, I commented his shirt or it said weed. And he just took me to some cannabis cafe, where I was like, okay, cool. This is legal here. Now I have somebody that's a member that's trying to get me to sign up, because that's how kind of it is. You have to be a member in these cannabis clubs, and I've listened to your episodes before on that culture of cannabis clubs, and it's very interesting. I just read an article today that Germany might be backtracking from its full legalization plans, and they're going to try the club method for the time being. So that's very interesting. But hey, the more the merrier the weed. That's really all that matters.
Yeah, that's really fascinating from, such an outsider perspective to try to keep an eye on what's going on in Europe and South America, all over the world. Thailand, we have an episode we will have an episode of Great Moments in weed history coming up, where I'm talking to somebody who's been really involved in the legalization process in Thailand, which has become, certainly by some media accounts and some people that I've talked to, and I say this in a good way, a bit of a free for all.
Amazing.
Yeah, and what I love about, I can't speak to like what's specifically going on in Germany. I'm not well educated on it, but that general idea that cannabis can be legal without being part of a capitalistic enterprise is one that I think most people would like the most. But take me to another great moment in your.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I have two. I'm going to start with the more lackluster one, but still just equally exciting. So on my travels, I like to travel with friends. I traveled out with a close friend of mine to Portland, Oregon, and at that point, I was really involved in the learning phase of cannabis, listening to all the podcasts. This is where I was like listening to one episode maybe every few days and just going really deep into it. And I really enjoyed this channel on YouTube called Grower's House, which produces Canna Crips. Maybe you've heard of it. And they do episodes about cannabis grow ops, and they do interviews with all the people that work in there and do a whole walkthrough. And I really like that style. So when I traveled to Portland, I figured, why don't I just research a couple of cultivation centers? Maybe they'll let me come in and film for a day. I was just shocked that I got full access by this one cultivation center that grows cannabis called Yerba Buena. And they let me in for like 4 hours with my cameras, with my microphone, just sticking my nose in every room that I could see. And they walked me through it. And that to me was a great moment, because I realized that, hey, this is the career that I want to be in. They just let me in to see and learn, and I'm able to make a video about it and share it on my YouTube channel. That's great, but this is where I want to be in. And at the end of that year, I came to find a job in cannabis, and I've been in the industry ever since, in the Illinois legal market.
Oh, fantastic. That's such a great trajectory, and it's what, I think one of the most interesting and fun parts about making any kind of a media, whether you're writing, whether you're making a podcast, whether you're a vlogger, is that you get to follow your curiosity, your natural curiosity. And if you are always doing that, you're always going to be engaged, and hopefully you can find people who share your same curiosity and want to go on that journey with you. I feel like that's what this show sort of is, just being curious about how did we get here weed wise. And I want to thank everybody listening and watching, and really everybody particularly watching and listening to this, because you are the ones who are helping to make this show possible. Absolutely, and without a doubt, without the support that we're getting on Patreon from you right now, weed history would go on, but it would be chronicled by someone else. So, and I love doing it, and I love having these secret seshes. So, thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the top of this J that I'm gonna relight. We're gonna resessionate and bring it
No,
in
that's
for the. Sorry.
that's great. I was gonna say that I really just want more people to learn about this. Like your episode on Fela Kuti is just mind blowing and very emotionally touching. And I never heard of him, but I love that kind of music. I never knew who he was, but I'm sure people have heard of his music. And I just can't stop listening to his music ever since I listened to that show. Just earlier today, I was listening to the episode about you were speaking this very last episode. I forgot his name, but he's from the Middle East area and he's the researcher.
Maziar.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I just want more people to be able to, learn that. And I feel like that's one area where we can all kind of focus on, that verbal history, but also that, excitement about it, because there's so much information that, we can pick up on. And just I'm learning a lot from you, what stories you might have. And likewise, the subscribers here can also learn from what I can say. And I've learned a lot from the other secret sessions that you guys have had. So it's great that you're letting us do it. I just want to get you to that 420 mark.
Thank you. Yeah, we're slowly, I don't know about surely, but slowly, the numbers going up, and it's an aspirational goal. And, everyone listening to this is already in the boat with us. So unless, it does make a lovely 420 gift. But
you're at 419 right now, right?
And I want to say, boy, to me, that's such a beautiful sentiment that you just shared about Fela Kuti, because to me, if this show has been the conduit for you, not just to that story, but to that music that I love and listen to all the time myself, like that's what's so interesting about weed, and I would imagine travel. I'm sure travel through my own travels is it intersects with all these other things. We tell stories about musicians, we tell stories about political activists, about medicine, about plant botany, about the criminal justice system, or criminal injustice system in too many cases on this show. All of this is through the prism of this plant, but it opens up so many different worlds to us, and opens up so many different people to us. And obviously, like, trying to bring the best possible guests to the show that we can, based on who is willing to sit down and talk about weed for an hour, is amazing to get to have those conversations. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your asses. These secret sessions have been all so engaging and fascinating, and it's really just deepened my appreciation for this community of people that are supporting the show. Let's tell everybody where they can check out your stuff on YouTube. And it sounds like we've got built in a few recommended episodes. I know that I'm gonna go watch you be high for the first time on camera as soon as we wrap this session up.
Finally here, guys. It feels good to be back. Love the mountains.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could, anybody that's interested in just travel documentary style filmmaking, it's been a while since I've released anything, but I'm getting back on that grind. My channel is Discover with Dima. One word, last name spelled Dima, Discover with Dima. And yeah, you're welcome to browse my whole collection of videos. I have some interesting, exciting adventures. Colombia. I loved my time in Colombia. Funny enough, I was not actually smoking there. I was still in my early phase of weed, and I was still kind of, I don't know, what's this, what's that? Oh, that's a dab mat, that or the dab rig, that looks like some crack pipe. I still didn't know what was what in the cannabis industry, so I didn't imbibe. But in hindsight, I probably should have, because Colombian weed, from what I hear, is very very delicious.
It is a long, long, proud tradition of growing fine cannabis in Colombia for sure. In the 70s, going back, you look at old issues of High Times. They'll talk about like Santa Marta Gold, a city in Colombia, being sort of the most prized weed of the era. As far as what's being grown there now, I would hope to make it down there someday and find out. I'd love to do, if anybody is watching The Secret Sesh and is also a development director at HBO,
Please.
we got we got a cannabis travel around the world show to knock your socks off. Do you want to talk at all about the work that you're doing now in the legal industry?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I work in the retail space, and that's it's a very exciting opportunity. Simply because you're able to kind of continue what I'm doing right now, just speaking about cannabis, but on a person to person basis, where somebody comes in with a story or with an ailment, and you're able to hopefully change their life. I mean, pun intended. I mean, it's just kind of like they have pain and they know that this can help them, and it helped so many other people. Why shouldn't it help these people? And really, sometimes the stories you hear are just really heartbreaking and upsetting. I remember one time a couple of years ago, I don't remember the person, but I wouldn't share their name either ways. But I just remember them coming in, and I just asked them, it's like, what are you coming in for today? And they would just say, I just got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. What do I do? And they're just sitting there shaking. And I'm like, oh boy, that's damn, it gives me a rush of emotions just as much. But from the information, I try to be as educated as possible when I speak about cannabis or speak to any kind of conditions or what have you. And there's a lot to learn. Sure, cannabis can help with cancer, but it's not treating this. It's helping mitigate that. It might shrink this kind of cancer, but it won't do it this way. There's just so many intricacies, and that's the tricky part. When somebody comes in, they're just like looking to buy something and find a quick solution, but they're really just that person to person consulting level is invaluable. And that's what I enjoy the most, being able to give that kind of kind of response to people where they came in thinking that they were just going to go to menu, click on a button, but there's a lot to learn. And my mind was just blown, pun intended, when I learned about terpenes and CBN and this and that, and just how it grows, and just looking at it. I mean, just looking at those beautiful fields behind you right now, it's a very nice image you got there. Where is that? Where in the weed are you?
Where in the weed is Bean? I'm gonna give you an answer that I love to give. I get this question every once in a while, but I think probably the first time on the show anybody's asked. This picture was stolen from the website of the DEA.
Wow.
I got one back from them, those fuckers, because we tried a bunch of different backgrounds, different pictures, and first of all, had no bad feelings about stealing a picture from the DEA, but it's really got a nice field of vision. It's aspirational. I'd say these plants probably have about a month until they're ready to harvest, so that's a nice time of the weed year. When the plants
it's a very sativa looking plant, very tall too. I like the stature.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm not a very tall guy, so maybe I should have had some short kush plants behind me, and I'd look a little bigger. But shout out to all the bud tenders and everybody who works in the industry and really cares about the plant. There's so much to know. There's so much to learn, but people are lucky if Dima, if you are the person that they encounter, because I hear how much you have researched and how much care about this plant and people, and when we do any kind of work for this plant to help spread it, to make it available to people, then we can participate in what is somewhat miraculous. If you've ever really, I will say I don't know what I've been with a lot of people who are cancer patients, either, talking with them about their use of cannabis, or people who have been encouraged to seek out cannabis, and I'm, glad and honored to sometimes get that phone call, even from people I might not know that well, who just want information because that information has been suppressed for so long. And it's great to know as much as you can. But anybody listening to this, you know that it can help. And a lot of times it's just about being there for the other person. It's about making sure that they know that this is good medicine, that you went out of your way to make sure that they got actually good example of what cannabis is, and this plant will meet them halfway. So if you have an opportunity, lots of people may or may not want to work in the cannabis industry, of course, but if you're listening to this, you're a weed person, and just be there and be open to that, because people are still have a lot of fear around this plant. And really, if you can just help them deal with that fear to the point where they can try it, the plant will do the rest. And Dima, I'm gonna sesh with you one more time on the way out. It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for all your kind words. Thank you for supporting the podcast. And let's get a IRL sesh on the books. I've got Illinois marked on my weed map now. I won't travel there
Awesome.
without hitting you up first.
Awesome.
All right, and everybody, we'll see you next weed on Weedness Day for the second annual Weedathon. Oh no, wait, this is not going to come out for. That's the next weed that's going to happen in the reality of us talking right now, but in the time warp reality of anyone else watching this, I'll just say tune in next week on Weedness Day. Thanks for getting high on history with us.
Thank you.